What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Games Up podcast, and we are back, still here, doing our coverage of E3 2016. We've just finished Bethesda's conference literally minutes ago. What a conference it was, though me and you disagree.
Yes.
My name is Cameron McCulloch. Well, you know me as one third of the host of this show, and I'm joined as ever by Lewis.
Hello.
Lawrence will be joining us later for the rest of the conferences. We are going to run through chronologically, as we are known to do, Bethesda's conference, starting with the very first announcement right to the very last. Happy with that?
Yeah.
Overall, what did you think?
So, I didn't expect much from it, and I don't think there was much. But we disagree on this. Okay.
So, we do disagree quite heavily. I thought that that was a stellar conference. I thought that was really good.
I mean,
and you think
I think they'll be hard pressed to be anything worse over the next day. I really do.
I don't.
I think EA was worse.
Yeah, I think EA was much worse.
I think the next three will be amazingly better.
Man,
I don't understand where you're coming from with this.
So let's start right at the beginning. They opened up with Quake Champions.
Yeah, and it looks good.
So from what we've seen online that was confirmed throughout the conference as it happened, it is a PC only. It's a PC only online multiplayer arena thing.
Yeah.
People are speculating that because it's PC only, it might be free to play, which would be interesting. That's a speculation at this point. But it's PC only. It's running at 120 Hz with no frame cap. Sorry.
Cool.
So that's fairly
cool.
impressive. I would not be surprised if we see that in that case on VR very soon, because you need 90 frames per second for decent VR.
Okay.
So as far as I understand it, it might be slightly less than that. But yeah, with that kind of stuff, really cool to see them coming out straight out the gate with a big game announcement.
Yeah.
And this didn't quite set the pace for the whole conference. They weren't doing quite that kind of hammering for the whole conference, but they really did nail the first third of this conference.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
So Quake Champions comes out, and that's really cool. It almost looked doomy at first.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're both the same origins, really. I mean, if you look at Doom, Quake, and Unreal Tournament, they're all in that kind of zone. So
yeah,
it's not too surprising that they would feel similar.
No, and following on from that, it's equally not too surprising that this is being developed by id.
Yeah, of course.
So so it looked very doomy, but and when I say it looked very doomy, I don't just mean like it looked Bethesda first-person shooty. It had that kind of. It felt like, in the way that Doom has picked up the feeling of Doom, the original Dooms, and that kind of speed to it, and that movement, it reminded me of that to an extent, but with just less hell demons. So that's nice. So we followed up Quake Champions with Elder Scrolls Online Legends, which is the card game they announced last year.
Yeah.
This was a weird moment for me, I think. They announced it with a story trailer.
Yeah. It was an interesting thing to do a cinematic for
yeah, and it was
not a very good cinematic.
It wasn't a great cinematic.
A
and it was a super heavy like narrative thing, and then they cut to the gameplay and it looked like kind of knockoff Hearthstone,
yeah.
Which is, I mean, I guess like a card game could do a really good job of telling a story. We saw at EGX last year, we saw Thea the Awakening, which involved, managed to fit a card game into a strong narrative, but I don't know something that could carry a narrative.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting idea, and I don't think Bethesda sort of established that this will be the one to do it.
Yeah.
So then from there, they showed the trailer, confirmed an E3 beta. Not entirely sure what that means, because it wasn't a available right now moment, but it was an E3 beta, so probably sometime within the next few days. And then we moved on to the Fallout DLC.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of building DLCs. They're adding a whole bunch of building materials. They're adding a build your own shelter, which is a pretty cool idea. Seems like
it was cool, but for me it was a bit slow. It was a slow moment in the thing.
Yeah, I'd agree. The weird 30s.
Because actually, well, there was the one where it was build your own vault, and that was kind of cool, and it could be interesting. I mean, the only problem I see with it is it just being you build your own base, but like underground. You know.
Yeah. To me, it really resembled Fallout Shelter. It made me think of...
Yeah.
really resembled
They
Fallout Shelter.
intentionally seem to do that right at the end, to do like a dollhouse version of it.
Yeah, and Todd Howard went on to say that Fallout Shelter had sold 50... had been downloaded 50 million times. And you've got to wonder maybe whether they looked at Fallout Shelter having that many downloads and thought, maybe we need to connect these franchises a little better.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's naive to try and connect the mobile and the console gaming too much.
Yeah, I'd agree. Although they did a pretty good job of it last year. Fallout Shelter did gain a good reputation for doing that.
Yeah, I think for the DLC, like the other one was contraptions and stuff, which looked cool, but then what they showed us in terms of like implementation was very you can make like a marble go down a thing.
Yeah, it was a bit threadbare, and at this point the sort of 20s, 30s post-apocalyptic music didn't help, because usually that adds quite a sort of light-hearted, jolly tone, ironically, but here it just felt a bit sort of jokey and if disposable.
Like I'm sure that it's probably great and you can do some cool things with it. Like maybe you can make like traps and like things that crush people when you get nearby or whatever, something like that. But what we got was like you can make some sort of Rube Goldberg machine. Yeah, it did seem like Fallout 4 Rube Goldberg sim. Yeah, which is weird. But then they went on to see, it was the third DLC that they announced that I find really interesting. They announced Nuka World. Yeah. Which, as far as we can tell here, seems to be an expansion. I can't see what else it would be. It'll be a location though, but I don't think it'll be quite so major.
I mean, no, I'm not, like, maybe not an expansion on the level of Fair Harbor, but it... No, sorry, I'm going to keep making that joke. But it looked fairly sizable. The only other thing I can think of, maybe it's some kind of arena, or maybe it's some kind of... something like that, but it looked expansion-y to me. Yeah. And I find it kind of interesting that they almost just...
Well, they didn't... the way they brought up the other two was in like a... This is called Fallout 4 this. This is Fallout 4 Contraptions DLC. This is Fallout 4 Vault DLC.
Whereas Nuka World kind of had its own trailer.
It was just a cinematic, and then with the words like Nuka World.
Yeah.
And us being outside it.
It's kind of interesting that they just sort of stealth... if this is an expansion, that they just stealth announced another expansion.
They did. It was a bit interesting, that.
I wonder how many more DLCs Fallout 4 is going to get. So then they went on from Fallout 4 to confirm what was all but confirmed at this point, Skyrim remaster.
The game that nobody wants.
Doesn't seem like the audience in that room agreed with you.
The audience in that room are... Well, we would disagree. I mean, like, what the media wants,
I don't know, they barely clap for Dishonored. So Skyrim Remaster, I've got to say, it looked fairly good. It looked like
To me, it didn't. It looked like what they'd done is just turned the bloom up to max and added light rays everywhere. Because essentially... it looked like
the
visibility had gone down to like
different.
a meter.
The textures to me looked entirely different.
The textures look good, but then like when you reduce your visibility down to a meter, you can make the textures look good. In fairness, the location they showed us was like you're in a dense jungle, and you can see like nothing. I think if they'd done like here's standing on top of a mountain, it might have looked a lot more.
So they're pushing your skeptic button.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, I gotta say, to me, it looked like something that they'd thrown up together really quickly.
See, I didn't get that.
How did you not get that though? Like, for me, okay, they could have done so much more with that. They could literally like do a combat, like a proper full trailer.
Yeah.
And what we got was like, here's it on the PS3, here's it on the PS4, Here's it on the Xbox 360. Here's it on the Xbox One.
That's
what we got.
Something that baffles me is that nobody, to the best of my knowledge, has used a remaster to recreate their original trailer yet.
Yeah. Well,
Like the original Skyrim trailer, I'm pretty sure I've seen it, and I think that would be a great candidate for a remastered version of that trailer, almost done side by side.
yeah.
That would be good. Other things of interest in this Skyrim remaster seems to be fully remastered, which is nice. Also got mod support on both consoles, which is good.
Yeah.
Which is good. It seems like Bethesda are really pushing mods on consoles. Hopefully, we'll see that picked up by other people.
I hope so.
Side prediction: maybe that's a Minecraft thing.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool. So then, from Skyrim, I knocked my first points on the board for our predictions with the announcement of Prey, which is not Prey 2 anymore, and it does look nothing like the trailer from years ago. It has
It did look really good though.
It has seemingly gone horror again, like proper horror.
Yeah, it did seem to. I mean, I don't know. It's not horror in the same way the first one was.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I got a kind of Bioshocky Dead Space vibe from it.
Yeah, it was horror in that world where you're like, from what we could tell, it started off with like a really heavy horror theme, but then it kind of, there was a bit of a, like, half of it was kind of this, like, kind of repeating thing where it showed this guy kind of getting, like, more ill or something.
Yeah.
But then, like, interlaced with that, we had, like, just combat of, like, some guy holding a massive gun and shooting things. So it was a little bit,
it was odd.
at odds with each other, those little bits.
So, Prey lives again,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Being developed by Arcane, the people who are making Dishonored, but they're in two teams.
Yeah.
So Team 1 is on Dishonored, Team 2 is on Prey, and we'll get to Dishonored in a little bit. From Prey, they went on to say more Doom DLC. They're supporting SnapMap quite heavily. They're supporting SnapMap with a bunch of new free updates, and then they've got premium Doom updates coming.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Doom gets a free demo this week, the Doom demo, the Dememo. But only for this week, which feels kind of dumb.
Also,
They made a big thing about how Bethesda earlier in their career supported demos, and so we're going to support a demo for this week, which was a bit weird to do.
But the other thing is that, like, I find it strange that they would do the first level, just because I've seen that game, and I've seen that the first level is like a short, not very interesting part of the game.
Right.
It's like, I know that obviously it's a demo, but usually, like, I think of demos of the past a long time ago now, I guess. But you would show like midway through a section that wasn't really too.
Yeah, they're like a framing device for the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I do think demos have changed, though.
Yeah.
I think traditionally for a demo, like, the last demo I played was Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like, you got an hour in the game.
Okay.
And you could sort of... I think the whole point of it is to give you a taste of...
Yeah.
To get you to a point where you're like, I want to continue with this. And I think maybe that first level is the right way to do it.
Maybe.
So from the Doom demo, we had Elder Scrolls Online.
More Elder Scrolls Online.
Which had DLC, a Dark Brotherhood DLC coming to consoles next week. Various sizzle reels about how well it's doing, which I still don't entirely believe.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Elder Scrolls Online was a multiplayer massive. Wait, it won multiplayer game of the year, right? Is what they said.
Yeah, as did everything that they announced this year.
And and the funny thing is about that is that it was a game that changed its like pricing model in like the first year.
Yeah,
because they didn't have the numbers. So it started off when it launched. You had to buy the game, and then you had to subscribe like £10 a month, and that would get you access to the game.
I think it was 15. It might have been $15.
Okay. And then very shortly afterwards, in terms of like MMOs, like 6 months afterwards or something, it was suddenly free to play. Now, changing your pricing model is a very, especially that quickly. You know, like I play lots of MMOs, and you're usually looking at like 2-3 years down the line before something goes free to play, or at least loses the subscription model, because that's it's kind of like that second.
It's
evolution
writing on
stage.
the wall moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you're at that. Once you're going to free to play, you're at that stage now where you're kind of going, okay, we need to bring in more numbers. That's the only way we can continue. So it didn't launch that well.
And speaking of, well, yeah, I don't know. I can't speak to that, and I don't want to say it as though it's fact. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But somehow it's getting MMO of the Year awards, which, as we said, like we commented on this during the conference whenever they said that, like, surely being MMO of a year is not really the point of an MMO. Like, if you're MMO of the decade, that's a real point of that's a real like point of quality for an MMO.
This is what I said is that there's not many MMOs that come out every year, and I guess this MMO of the year, I'm assuming, is the newest MMO of the year. You know, it's the newest ones that MMOs that came out in that year.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, when you're looking at it, you're going to look at like some Japanese MMO, and then you're going to know there's like MMOs that are in the background that
of course Bethesda and Elder Scrolls are going to be at the forefront of that category.
So like,
but I think what's more interesting is that, like, how long has the game been out now? 3 years? 3 years?
Yeah.
And like, it's kind of interesting that they're still referring to the successes of it in its launch window, because the whole point of an MMO, as far as I'm concerned and aware, is pushing it post its launch, is being able to keep people, both in terms of the game, is being able to keep people invested in it, and in terms of the money making, is being able to keep people subscribing for it. And it doesn't seem as though Bethesda are championing their ability to do that this year. It's still referring to the launch window. So how long can this game survive?
And I think it's interesting that they're pushing the DLC. I mean, it depends how big it is and what they're doing in it. Because it looked like it could be like actually looked like it could be a small thing. Because that's not necessarily like I don't know if it said it's definitely paid DLC.
I wouldn't know.
It might not be. I don't know.
I don't think that's how their pricing model works, though. I think their expansion packs the full way. So you subscribe and you. But then I guess with the free to play model,
there are some games where it's like you get what's known as like issue packs or things like that, where it's like £5 or something for that single set of missions.
I don't know. I can't speak to how it prices, and I don't ever intend to. It's not not like insultingly, but like, it's just I'm not a fan of the Elder Scrolls, and I'm not a massive fan of MMOs, so that's not
maybe that's why
for me.
You're happy with this conference.
Maybe. Why? Because I don't like two of the things they announced.
Because everybody just wants Elder Scrolls.
I really feel like that's silly, though. There was never any shot of getting Elder Scrolls 6 here.
That's what everyone wants. Don't go too easy.
So we moved on from the Elder Scrolls Online to Bethesda VR, which we disagree on heavily. They announced that Doom was getting VR support to an extent. It's not the full thing. They announced that you could take a guided tour of hell. Yeah, it sounds like a horrible advert for anything. Yeah. And then they announced that Fallout 4 was going to be made VR compatible. They announced the HTC Vive.
Yeah.
Don't know whether it comes out on anything else. I imagine it will.
I hope so, because I think the biggest obstacle I see in VR at the moment is the fact that no one seems to be wanting to do it on the same thing. Either that or the Vive's literally the thing that's going to take over.
Yeah, I mean,
because the Vive's had a lot more popularity than its competitors. Like the Oculus has kind of disappeared in one way.
I don't know. I get the feeling that the trajectory of VR is going to be very different after the next few days.
I disagree.
Interesting. We'll have to come back to that.
Yeah.
But I do think Fallout. We had a sort of mini argument before we started recording this about, do we think that was a big thing? And you said no, because you think
I don't really believe in VR.
Yeah,
it's the main thing, but as well. I mean, I don't know.
It's not gonna. Ironically, it's not gonna set the world on fire.
I think the problem is that
it's not gonna be a killer app.
It's such a small market at this point in time.
Yeah.
And obviously it needs a push to make it a big market. So in fairness, this is something that could make a big difference. But like, it's just, I don't know. It's just a very small.
No,
thing to announce.
it's totally fair.
See, this is the thing. This is where it does make a difference. This is where it does make a difference that E3 is media. Is that to the media that is amazing, right?
Yeah.
That is like something else to the media. Because that's the world that has that technology.
I know what you mean.
you know.
There's like the break between the hype cycle and the actual player base.
Yeah, to your average gamer, VR's like this pipe dream that's not really going to happen.
See, maybe, but I feel like so Fallout 4 is, as far as I'm aware, the first time a major publisher has brought a fairly new game out and put their cards down on the table and said this is going VR.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
if Bethesda are doing it,
That's true.
who else can we trust to do it? And I think, over the next few days we may see some really big announcements in that regard.
I'm very skeptical of it at the same time though.
Yeah.
Because you look at the VR that we've got at the moment and it's at nowhere near the level where we can go, here's Fallout 4 VR.
Apparently it is.
And actually, I think it's very telling that the Doom VR is a walk, what sounded like a walk around.
Yeah, that was something that I caught on as well.
It's very interesting that the Doom's a walk around, but Fallout 4 is a full game. I'm very skeptical of that. That's very suspicious, I think.
We'll have to see.
Yeah,
I guess a lot of what we're going to have to say for all these conferences is we'll see. So then to wrap it up, we moved from VR. We had the main chunk of the conference, I would say, a sort of main focus chunk of the conference. Maybe 15 minutes of it
I think it
was spent on Dishonored 2, which was kind of surprising. Like, I didn't think that would be their big
See, I did.
Like, full
I thought that was
push.
their big push, I think.
Really?
I
I thought they
think
would
that's
have
what it
pushed about equal
Although
amounts for
actually-
this and Skyrim.
I think Skyrim, though, like... Although, I think... The weird thing with Skyrim is I don't think people wanted it. I really don't. Because it's a game that's traditionally very much PC-based. Yes.
Well,
Yes,
that
definitely
was...
is. Oblivion isn't, but Skyrim was.
We will see with that one. I heavily disagree with you on that. But we went to Dishonored. We had there were some pretty interesting things about it. We started off with like a atmospheric cinematic trailer of the new setting.
It was a bit dull.
Well, the atmospheric cinematic stuff was a bit dull at first. Personally, I quite like the look of it though. It kind of reminds me of like a Middle Eastern version of the city from the original Dishonored, which is really cool.
That's true.
Then we
Hang on.
no, you go.
I think personally, it's interesting to watch, but for me, it's like that's the stuff that I would show in the post show or the stuff, the details that would come out later. Personally, I think for your actual E3 show, it's a little bit.
I know what you mean.
Especially because it was like I think we got something similar with Assassins in the past, where here's the big trailer, but then here's somebody talking about the city of Paris.
Right. Yeah.
For a
yeah.
while, that's something that you can have someone talk about it for 20 minutes.
So we had that cinematic trailer, and then we got a fairly
right.
large gameplay chunk showing off the new character Emily, the new playable character Emily, showing off the new city, some of the new sections, some of the new time manipulation stuff, which sounds kind of interesting, but remains to be seen how it plays in the game. I think the thing to take away from this final chunk is that it looked like Dishonored.
Yeah.
Like it looked more of Dishonored, and frankly, that's exactly what I want from Dishonored 2.
I don't know what I feel about Dishonored 2. The problem is that I think Dishonored is one of those games that worked really well.
Yeah.
Because they got lucky.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh,
I feel like a lot of systems in that game were made in such a way, and then if you look at like the cool gameplay things you can do in it, I think like a lot of it was not luck. Luck sounds bad, but like a lot of it's manipulation, and like by making the game again, you kind of build up these walls again in a specific way.
I see what you mean.
and the same manipulations don't occur, and then it's kind of very fixed.
I see what you mean, but I have to admit I do disagree with you. I think what makes Dishonored is less the powers and more the level design.
Oh yeah, no, I can give you that.
And I think that when those two things come together, man, that game is so tight. It's so well put together.
And if you were Dishonored,
it feels to me like a jigsaw that you can put together in loads of different ways, and that's exactly what I want from a stealth game like that. From a high fantasy kind of light stealth game, that's exactly what I want from that.
Yeah, I never knew where to stand with Dishonored, but I say it was a weird game. I liked it, but then I was kind of at the same time kind of going through the motions almost.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, I know what you mean. It didn't there were certainly times where I was struck out of it, and there were certainly times where I had to be like, I'm gonna finish this, and it was worth it.
Yeah,
but
it was.
I think that's maybe what the original's supposed to do. I think maybe in terms of video games, maybe a sequel is where you refine on that stuff, and I'm hoping that Dishonored 2 is the highest moments from Dishonored 1 all lined up in a shooting gallery, so I can just go and work my way through them.
Yeah,
because I'd love that. That would be great.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, I totally agree. I love that game. I did really like that game, but then it was just
it's all the little sort of hills and dales, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that was Bethesda's conference. We disagree heavily on this. I think that was a stellar conference. I think Quake, Fallout VR.
I think talking through it was alright.
Yeah,
but I think the next three are going to be better. All three of them.
That's interesting. I wonder. I
think they would struggle to be.
I'm pretty skeptical of Ubisoft at this point. I think the other two could knock it out of the park.
I think but I mean, I think Ubisoft will seemingly knock it out of the park.
But I really do think that Bethesda absolutely killed it here. I think as a second conference and as an establishment of we're here to stay, that's exactly what they needed. That's exactly what they needed.
I mean, on my sources, people are a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is that you've got to look at it like I've said before. Dishonored is a cult game.
Yeah.
So their main focus was on a game that's. It was a great game, but it's not a massive audience seller. It's not a big seller.
No. But they don't need a massive big seller every year.
Oh no, of course.
And I think it is kind of nice to see a big company like Bethesda take a cult game like that and champion it as their. Everything they announced here was cult.
Yeah.
Quake maybe is the least cult of it, but Prey's cult, Dishonored's cult.
Yeah, but Quake at this point, anything that's kind of looking at 10 years in the past, even 20 years in the past.
Yeah, but Quake isn't. I wouldn't say Quake is cult. I'd say it's fairly well known and fairly popular. Yeah. But it's of all the first-person shooters that are known for being that kind of genre. If you said name a 90s, seminal first-person shooter, I'd say Unreal. I'd say Doom. I'd say GoldenEye. Quake is the lower down on that list, and it is maybe maybe this is what Bethesda does, where they take something cult and make it into that year's holy shit, look at this moment.
We'll see.
We will see. I was very impressed with that. I can tell you less so.
It was okay. There's just, I think there's a lot more that they could do.
Interesting.
And I think what we got was it was okay.
I think, however, we can both agree that it really put EA to shame.
Yeah, I think anything could. I think Nintendo could put EA to shame.
Yeah.
So
that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap-up of Bethesda's conference in chronological order. If you like what you heard here, please consider dropping us a like so we can get out in front of a few more people and know we're doing something you appreciate. Come and have a look at our Facebook page. Tell us what you thought of it. Subscribe to us so you catch all of our content for E3 and in the future. We'd really appreciate that. And until the next conference, which will be very, very soon, we're off to get some sleep because it's 5 o'clock in the morning right here. So until the next time, the game's up.